future, the year 2229 to be exact. It contains biographies of each poet, every one of them a cyborg, and then a selection of their poems. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the cyborg poet who wrote each poem before I read it. The book's epigraph. A cyborg is a sapient being composed of both mechanical, electronic, and organic parts, and is entitled to the same rights and freedoms as any other person. The 2126 Universal Declaration of Sapient Rights. The first poem I'm going to read is by a cyborg whose name is Matriarch Doe. She started out her life as an incubator mechanism for fetuses, but someone uploaded a sentience program into her and she became a person. So the poem is called Fetal Address. Welcome to the old rip 'em out and roll 'em around. I'm your mom, and I know a thing or two about you, transparent skin, like this. Human embryos are visually indistinguishable from pigs at first, or a 20-week-old fetus already carries their life supply of egg cells. You're older than you'd think, you animal you, wild-eyed, crying, clawing your way from whence you came. Come, spring baby, melting snow, and I'll crouch in that birthing bath, baby bath, bloody bath, boom, and force you into all of this air, outer, spatial, regional, national, sport, and the goddamn motherfucking pressure, like this. At 28 weeks gestational age, a fetus can cry silently, or fetuses are affected by their parents' feelings, in some ways, lifelong. Shh, hush now, float in my fluids, listen to my beats and my bowels, bug eyes, limb buds, backbone, blink, breathe, baby. All right. The next poem is by an anonymous activist group called the Sydney School of Robotics, who campaigned for equal rights for robots and cyborgs. They also distributed publications, including a chapbook called Our Cyborg History. This IRL chapbook was published by the wonderful small press out here in Ontario called Bird Buried Press in 2017. The poem I'm going to read now is a rewrite of a poem by Oscar Hahn called Night Fable, and this poem is called Death Fable. Look how I can't die. Look, walking down street after street. Look, I tripped on the sidewalk. Look, when I crossed the black cat. Look, they write stories about me in the news. Look, with my smooth silicone bodice. Look, with my lush, fleshly lips. Look, and with metal formed limbs. Look. Afterwards, priests came and wanted to kill me. The purists came next and wanted to kill me. The priests want my soul. The purists want my body. Look how I can't die. Look, my soul has a backup. Look, they can't bury information. Look, there's no coffin for it. Look. Then those priests returned with a crowd of the pious and purists and shoved the whole of me down with their bodies, their mouths, and their souls. The body of a cyborg, broken for all. Communion in my body, once broken. Look how they found, look, a coffin for the night, look, but they can't kill my soul, look. Look how I can't die, look. Though they killed me, look at my soul. Right, so the next short poem is also from the Our Cyborg History chapbook created by the Sydney School of Robotics. It's a rewrite of the poem. It's famously known as one of the shortest poems in the world with one of the longest titles, called Lines on the Antiquity of Microbes, Please, by Strickland Gilliland. So the rewrite is called Lines on the Antiquity of Microbes on Robots, 070-108-101-097-115. Here's the poem. 078-101-118-101-114. 072-097-100-032-039-101-109. Thank you. The next poem is by a poet named Andre Riga. And Andre Riga was a celebrity poet. He had a golden body covered in gems and jewels and fitted with organic systems on the inside. He also wrote poetry, including this poem called Sound Like. What does this sound like? Does this sound like sounds? Like this sound? What like? What sound? What? Does sound like sounds? What does like sound like? What does sound sound like? Does like what sound sounds like? Sound. Sound. What? Sound. Like. Does what sound sounds like what like sounds like what sound? Sounds like this. Like. What does this? Sound. All right, the next poem was written by a teen cyborg poet named Clark Jones Smith. He had a robotic eye, arm, and brain chip, and was one of the most popular cyborg poets of all time. Here is his poem called Shift. Warm morning shadows in an alleyway. Shift. The bed department in a gigantic store. Shift. Between the full metal shelves of a library. Shift. Inside a dank old shed. Shift. A waiting room, you know the one. Shift. The moment just before the ride begins. Shift. Seagulls overhead. Shift. A bottle cap pressed into organic skin. Shift. In the distance, someone is crying. Shift. The water is warm, then cold, then warm again. Shift. The view from the roof. Shift. Strands of broken spiderweb. Shift. The place you are now, right now. Shift. The next one is probably the nerdiest in the entire collection. The poet's name is Trin Radham, and Trin had a cyborg brain and a skill for writing poetry about pop culture. This next one is called The Red Shirt, referring to the phenomenon in the Star Trek universe where characters wearing red shirts are often the ones who die first. Interior spaceship night, the command center. The captain barks out orders to the crew. Report, plot a course, engage. A young ensign in a red uniform complies. We grimace at her unfamiliar face, the foreshadowed doom. Suddenly, the room shakes, sparks fly. The captain begins a high-volumed dialogue with the crew. Shields up, reroute power to life support, scan for threats. The young ensign lies motionless on the floor, not complying. A medic runs over and pronounces her dead, although we already knew. In defiance, the ensign sits up, stands and returns to duty. For a moment, everything stops. Sparks freeze in midair, the captain's mouth agape. We pause too, straighten our spines, and look each other in the eye. This intermission gives us time to admire the ensign's tenacity in refusing predestination and to wonder what this means for the future. She places her hand on the console and the ship floats away into a spatial anomaly. Fade to red. The poet named Scoutbot started their existence as a computer algorithm in online multiplayer video games. They eventually became sapient and started to write video game poetry. This poem is called CC Adventure, and it's an ode to early text-based video games. It includes a dialogue between a player and the game. So I'll hold up a finger while I'm rooting for the game, just so you know. You are standing inside a room. There are no doors and no windows. There's a shiny brass lamp nearby. Get lamp. Okay. Leave. You can't go that way. Search. You find an inscription scrawled on the wall. It says, help, I'm trapped. Input command, set free. Set free. Okay. A smiling figure appears, but fades away before you can interact. Search. Now you are truly alone. Quit. You can't quit. You are trapped. Would you like to inscribe something on the wall? Yes/no. The last poem I'm going to read from this Cyborg Anthology is by Tiff Kuhn. Tiff had a robot spouse who died, and they wrote a lot about the grief caused by that loss. This poem is called Fish Bowl. Number 1, fish. When they're alive, they swim, and when they're dead, they float, which aren't all that different ways of being in the water. I don't know why I flushed them when they die instead of wrapping them in little boxes and burying them in a shallow hole in the yard with the hamsters, birds, and lizards. I think I want them to be in death as they were in life, sinking, still. Number 2, not. Myself. I'm not a machine or a man or a woman. Malleable and gendering of my persona. Movement in many directions. Not all that different ways of not being. When I die, I'll also be as I was in life, trapped in a box or whipped into the wind, words written about who I was, not who I wasn't, someone who lived between deaths, between bodies, buoyant but waterlogged. Whisked through an existence where I can't forget what happened, cheeks wet. 3, bowl. I don't know where my love is. I can't wait to join her. I bathe instead, plunging, pulling the plug with my head underwater, momentarily pacified, flowing free as air bubbles escape into the air. All right, so the last poem I'm going to read is brand new. It's not about cyborgs, and it's a work in progress. But I wanted to read something from the present to honor this 1-year anniversary, this strange life we've all been leading for a year now. I used the writing prompt, when the quarantine is over, and the poem is called Over. All right. When this quarantine is over, I can't imagine only anymore. But all the faces will be lined, distant, the shoes clean, over. Ghosts aren't real, but they have unfinished, empty buses, full again. Fingerprints on plastic, I can't imagine, over. I won't hear my footsteps over the din, bang, vocal cords, tires, layers instead of only, over. Particles free as the birds, free as the raccoons, free as our heavy coats at strangers' tables, over. When the quarantine's over, I'm going, earnestly, over and out. Thank you so much to Planet Earth Poetry for having me. I hope I'll be